We're getting into a political parties conversation this morning. And our good friend Nderitu is here. She's a registrar of political parties, and she joins us in the hot seat this morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you, madam.
How are you doing?
I'm very well.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Your face is calm. And usually they say the calm before the storm. This is what it looks like. we are in 2025, but you would imagine that there is an election tomorrow.
I imagine it. That is Kenya for you.
Oh, yeah? So that's the conversation that we're getting into today. And I'm very glad that you joined us this morning. Let's welcome you today with CT's proverb. You know, he goes around the continent every week and he's in a different country today. So he tell us what the proverb is and you can tell us how you would interpret that.
Come again.
He'll tell us the proverb for today and then you can tell us how you would interpret that proverb as we start off the conversation. Yes? Okay.
Thank you very much for honoring our invitation.
Yeah.
You've been here before.
Yeah.
Yes, and we always begin with the proverb. This week and the next week and the next will be in West Africa.
Yeah.
Today we are in the country of Burkina Faso. Yes, the land of honest people. This is the name that was given to this country by the President Thomas Sankara when after the coup that he brought about in 1983. This country is unfortunate in that it has had coups after coups after coups after coups after coups. And despite the mineral wealth that this country has, it's one of the poorest countries on the planet. But they have a new president, General Wairimu, and he seems bent on trying to bring about change. Now the proverb: if you look for trouble, you will not miss it.
Yeah, that trouble is always around us.
Yes.
It means that if you turn any time,
Yes.
And you are actually looking for it, it is not far from where you are. From where you are, it's a component of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look for it, you find it.
Yes.
The best thing is to ignore trouble and don't look for it.
It's true, and you will not find it.
Yeah, and you'll not find it if you are not looking for it.
Very true.
Yeah.
You know, people say that this country is one of the most politicized countries on the planet. So anybody who holds your job, a registrar of political parties, that is a person who has troubled by the bucket load.
Truth of the matter is, it's not an easy task.
Yes.
It's not an easy job. But a Kenyan has to do it.
Yes.
And that
Someone
Kenyan
has to do it.
Yeah, that Kenyan currently happened to be myself.
You know.
Yeah.
And you know, and hence I said, you know, your face is quite calm. And they say the calm before the storm. And you know, just jumping off into that conversation this morning is, you know, keeping political parties in check. This is the time that we will see many a political party formed. Everybody has a different agenda. Just, you know, starting from an overview of from where you sit. What are we seeing now in terms of, you know, different moves that people are that different people are making before we go to, you know, some of the things that have come out from the courts, for example, you know, and things like that.
I think the first thing is to look at the landscape of our political parties from a perspective of the rush also to register political parties, and also the rush to rebrand political parties, and look at the different of issues, the way the parties want to be known out here as we prepare for the next election. And also the issue of people who are outside political parties wanting to get into political party leadership. Some of them being people who are interested in 2027 elections and they have not been involved in political parties before. So we are seeing a rush, either people joining political parties and wanting to join at the highest of political parties. Therefore, you see change of officials. Then we see rebranding, and also we see rush to registration of political parties. Currently, we have over 30 or 40 applications that are ongoing in terms of processing of political parties. Since 2022.
These are new political parties?
These are new political parties, Kenyans who are searching to register. But applications are many there, especially in reservation of names, it's in their hundreds. Yeah, but you see, once you apply, the speed at which you move depends on you as the people proposing to register a political party. So we can say that the ones that have taken some progress is that something that 3, that 4 towards registration. Since 2022, we have only registered 2 political parties since 2022 elections, meaning those are the ones who have been able to meet the requirement for registration. Those are the fully registered political parties that we registered last month. So that means that as we look at the landscape towards 2022, we see people really interested in political parties and how to get into those political parties, especially as party officials. And if you look at every Gazette notice every Friday, you are going to see how parties are rebranding, how parties are changing officials and all that. Some want to change colors, some want to change officials, some want to change... all those come together as a package. But one thing I want to note is that we have really put procedures in terms of registration of a political party. It's not very easy these days. That's why we can say since the last general election to date, we have been able, only 2 parties have been able to complete the procedures, meaning that we have put clear procedures on how you register political parties without breaching, especially data of Kenyans. And that has actually made it a bit slow as compared to the last season. Yeah,
the role you play is really, really important. And I was yet to hear in your preliminaries remarks talk about the Political Parties Amendment Bill that was, I think, insinuating or trying to scrap your office, replace it with the commission.
Yeah.
How did that go?
One, it's still on.
Okay.
The bill is still on. I think it has now passed the stage of the Senate.
Yes.
It is actually in the National Assembly. The National Assembly have called for public participation so that it progressed to the next level. But what we are happy about now, when the Senate did ask for public participation and our office participated, majority of the issues we raised, they took them on board. Because the bill, as it was originally presented, lacked some very critical issues that looked at the institution as it is today. We wanted it to be a going concern even after the commission come on board. And that is what they have put there. The bill now has put those measures.
Okay.
That is, it's the institution, the OLPP, that is actually being transitioned into a commission, as opposed to how the bill suggested. It's like it's scrapping and bringing a new institution.
Okay.
So really, as the bill starts today, it's not a new institution. It's just a question of transitioning OLPP from a single-led member institution to a moot-led institution. So a single-led is where there's one person at the top and then the other branches. But now a moot-led is where 5 people are sitting on the top and then the rest come down.
If we're to follow that example with political parties, because political parties are what gives us what you call a president who then appoints cabinet, etc., etc. If we're to take that thing to its logical conclusion, how would it work if we had a commission at the level of the president where we had 5 people sitting down together?
I know. What I can tell you, a moot-led has its own challenges.
It has, my point exactly.
Yeah, it has its own challenges, yes. And but then this is a country, and registration. The work of registration belongs to Parliament.
It does. You see, I'm extending the argument and the discussion because when you focus the discussion on, say, the registrar of political parties or the entity that oversees the processes of registering political parties, then to have a meaningful discussion, then you have to look at other entities as well. Okay, we have the IEBC and they have a commission. Now we see at the circus there. We had a simpler system before the IEBC came into being. The circus was less profound. Now, all I'm saying is, it's a discussion that this country has had for the longest time with regards to, do we bring this thing together and mix it up so that we have many people in it? Or do we have one person at the helm and have people who work with them? And from what I have seen, if I'm to go by even the highest office in the land, what seems to work is you have to have a leader at the top. Yes, a leader. Not 3 leaders, a leader. The Romans tried it, where you had a triumvirate, as they call it, 3 people at the top. And part of the reason was because they were all powerful, and unless they agreed, they were going to be in a state of constant war. Now, deciding on how political parties should move forward, essentially, if I am to understand what the bill in its original form meant, was that let's form a debating society. And let this debating society decide how political parties are going to run. That thing was going to be chaotic.
That's true. But now, what they have put in the process of the review of that bill, the original one never had even qualification who should be a commissioner and who is disqualified to be a commissioner. But the current one, as it has been put out, has at least disqualification that if you have been a political party official for the last 5 years, you cannot become a commissioner. If you had run for office, for political office, you cannot become a commissioner. At least the disqualification are there. However, the bill still remains that it is the coalitions and it's political parties that are basically proposing who become a commissioner.
They would. We know and see, this is me saying, the mess they have made of IEBC. Same thing, because the moment you have political parties having a big say, where then is the independence of this particular body?
It's assumed the people who are being proposed are apolitical, and that means then they will, in their own volition, as good Kenyans, be able to detach themselves from the political parties and do the right thing. That is the assumption. That is the assumption.
Is that the hope? Is that the hope of the Office of the Registrar?
The Judicial Service Commission.
Exactly.
Let's take a situation where political parties were allowed to appoint people. Tell me what that would look like. It would be utterly and absolutely chaotic. I'm simply saying that when you look for independence in institutions, the say of the politicians should be at the level of parliament where they have their people. They already have a say. To give them a second say beyond the parliament and the Senate is simply saying that we are inviting problems we don't need. And the independence that the Constitution promises certain institutions will definitely not be there. Yes. That's my view. I don't know what my colleagues think.
Speaking of independence, because there was this time, I think 2023 thereabout, where your office was accused of being compromised. And you said at this point in time, it's very hard to know because each party would work with its convenience, where you lean towards. And I'm just looking at headlines when you came in. They said the woman to sanitize Kenyan politics in 2022. That's the headline they gave you. And we're yet to find out how it's going in terms of your independence vis-a-vis the compromising situations.
No, ask the question. I mean, it would be...
Because that is the question. How is it going? Because in as far as people are now looking at amending the act, etc., it's based on the compromising situation that your office would have, and as far as this political parties is concerned. How are you maneuvering that?
I think the first thing you should know why probably the political class thought a commission is better. Probably they thought the registrar as it is now, the office of registrar as it is now, takes certain stands and probably more legal. And for that, then, we are likely less influenced by the politics because we are recruited independently. And we look at law. For example, for me, I'm a career civil servant. There's nothing you tell me new in terms of breaking the law. I will stick to the law because that is what has formed me since I joined the public service, and therefore I'll look at the public service and the interest, the interest of the citizens and the interest of the country at large. And that may not sit well with some of the politicians because you have to make a decision. The decision must really stick to the law. And probably a person here and there may feel that is a bit so strict, and probably you are not bulging and you are not influenced easily. So it's safer to bring a bigger group, and that bigger group, it's possible to be able. You have options on how you can influence. Probably that's my thinking.
Right.
But on the other hand, it's also good to know. sometimes it's also good to be fair to them by saying that probably they may think a bigger group may bring bigger opinions and a mix of opinions, which are as opposed to probably how one person at the top there see perspective. But really speaking, an institution is not only the one person. It's only that it results in one person speaking and making the final say. But it's an institution that has legal department, compliance and all that, and many officers who are working, looking at the law. But probably the issue of looking at this one person who is probably very strict and very firm to the law, may be a problem, actually be a problem. And I hear them, because politics also, you really need to know that you are sure that I can influence maybe here and there. But from where I sit, I think the best way is to really look for Kenyans, whether it's one individual like myself or it's a commission, is look at Kenyans who have corporate good for the whole country. And because the work of registrar is also to regulate politics, and politics can destroy a country. Well, so whoever comes on the top there, whether it's one person or a commission, should actually be looking at the corporate good of a country, so that the politics is settled in such a way it's not affecting operations of a country.
And how does the Office of the Registrar do that when we talk about political regulation? Because I was met with shock when you talk about the fact that there are hundreds of applications for new political parties. Now 30 to 40, so hundreds of name registrations and all of that. Yeah. But then 30 to 40 applications for new political parties 2 years to an election. And we wouldn't be surprised if some of the same players who were in other parties before are in these new applications for political parties. So how then do you employ political regulation when it comes to things like this, based off the fact that we know from the early days of politics, when we look at politics from the very beginning, when it became a thing, political parties were essentially ideology based. How do you employ political regulation when it comes to anybody and their uncle can, register a political party to be able to run for political seat?
The first thing is to appreciate that the Constitution of Kenya declares Kenya as a multi-party democracy. That actually set the space that any Kenyan can register a political party, provided the rules and regulations and procedures are followed up to the end. So you can actually not really stop any Kenyans from exercising their political rights by registering a political party. What starts is that the Office of Registrar has then to set the procedures and regulations that really regulate that process, how you register a political party, and making sure that it's in compliance fully to the law. One of the issues that have been a very big problem before is membership. For you to register a political party, you are supposed to have 24,000 Kenyans registered before we can declare you a political party. At least 1,000 in 24 counties. Before then, Kenyans used to complain, I don't think I registered in this political party, I don't think this is me who registered and all that. So the first thing was to set up systems that allows Kenyans to give consent during registration, and that when you are registered, mostly we prefer when you do self-registration, and we have created a system to allow you to do self-registration. So a political party approaching you, you just go to the system and you register yourself. That means it is your data you are putting in. And if a political party have to register you, then you must give either written consent or you give a phone consent, a message you come to your phone and then you give consent.
Okay.
Then it's itself alone, it's a regulation that makes sure that there's fairness in terms of who joins a political party at will and who really is moved from a political party, because we make it easier also for you to move out of a political party just by deciding a course.
Okay.
Exactly.
Spice up your life.
But then, how do you deal with the behavior, the etiquette around political parties, where I'm going to insist on the ideology base of a political party. Or are you not involved as a registrar in making sure that, number one, there is sanitization, that two, people are not just using it as a vehicle for political expediency, but are actually interested in ideologies that will move the nation forward? Or is the registrar of political parties not involved?
Now, number one, in 2022, amendment to the Political Parties Act, we made it mandatory. If you are registering a political party, you must file with us a statement of ideology. That's the starting point. So that you tell us exactly why do you want to register a political party and which ideologies and principles will you be furthering. So that when we measure you later in the future, we are checking whether you are actually following the principles that you put in place and the ideology that you proposed. That is the starting point. But also know that there are so many other political parties that were registered before, and probably that is what we are dealing with right now, to try and shape them and tell them it's a compliance matter in terms of filing a statement of ideology, which some of them are doing. They are reviewing constitution and they are putting it as part of it. But come to regulation of the political space itself. One, there's also a political party
Mature
the Political Parties Act. And that Political Parties Code of Conduct is our instrument. Sometimes when we see that you are going outside the circle, we are supposed to use that Political Parties Code of Conduct, and we have used it before to try and tell you are actually infringing on the rights of others, because the most important thing is that you have your political rights, but your political rights end where another person's political rights start. So don't infringe even in the right of another political party or even in the right of other individuals practicing their rights of associations politically. Yeah, so I think this Political Party Code of Conduct, but I cannot deny that we have a bit of a long way to form formidable political ideologies in Kenya. And it's a journey. And I want to remind you and Kenyans in general that Kenya is only 32 years now, that 2 years old multi-party democracy.
Okay.
From 1992. Now we are comparing with democracies, like for example, Sweden, the US, and all that, which have been there 200 years plus going forward. I think we are somewhere. We should not also judge ourselves too harsh. Let's give ourselves also time to form, because it is important we keep this pace and we keep forming. And the first thing I would say, there's nothing wrong for a person to register a political party for a special purpose vehicle. You hold elections and then you think...
But I think there is.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem, isn't it? Because somebody can get into the political sphere and we've given them the vehicle that they need, which we don't hold in as high regard as we ought to.
I want to give you scenarios.
Somebody can do whatever they want by virtue of the fact that they've registered a political party.
I want to give you scenarios across the globe, as an expert in this area. If you go to a country like Sweden, which is a no democracy, you register a political party within days towards election. Indeed, you can register even when you are just one person. Yeah, within days, you go to elections. If you don't win any seats, you drop the vehicle.
Exactly.
Okay.
You drop the vehicle, you are done with it. Go to South Africa, you register also towards the elections. They can be even as many as 1,000 political parties towards election. They go to an election. After elections, if you don't make to a certain threshold, you drop the vehicle.
It's the same practice.
It's the same practice
in Kenya.
No, the only problem in Kenya is that once you register a political party, to deregister it, it's a problem. And that's what we have saying. That is what we want to change the law. Like now, we have been trying to register some political parties. I can tell you right now, we have given actually suspension to about 5 political parties. But to move from there, to register them, they are all over in court. And the court is giving us order right written center, telling them even don't even stop them to invite for them for a meeting, because when we have suspended you, we think the logical thing to do, don't participate in the meeting. You are suspended, you don't exist for that period. But the court will give you orders and tell you, right, until the case have been heard and determined, the problem of the registration of political parties, which we need to.
Do we have a clear process?
The process is very clear, but first of all, it's very long.
Okay.
Number two, it has so many legal hurdles.
Is it not long deliberately?
That's the whole question. And that's why that makes the difference between us and those other nations I'm talking about. Because I think, to me, we should make registration of a political party easy, and registration also easy. So that you come, if you don't make it to get any people on board in terms of elected leaders, and you don't get a certain level of votes, number of votes, then you start registered.
Okay.
And then you come towards the next election, you now register again, you keep trying. If you get then you keep forming. In some jurisdiction, and I'm speaking of Sweden because that is my last engagement with in a process.
Yeah.
In Sweden, if you don't attain 4% of the votes, you cease to exist. You cease to exist.
Okay, let's take a
then
break
you
on
go
this.
all of you now. The one who get 4 point something, because their system is PR, proportional representation.
Yeah.
It's party list and all that. They are the ones now who go to parliament and form government.
And say,
they go form coalition and form government.
All right. Folks come in based on our ideology. They say they're going to do 1, 2, 3. Then you give them, the registration. They go, they're able to, start to recruit members in their party. It's interesting because I don't know how they do it. Every time register and, bring in new party members, but okay. But then down the line, you find out that they didn't stick to their ideology. Mirroring the example that you've given us of Sweden and say, okay, well, you didn't meet this, then we deregister you. Or in the US, we deregister you. Do you take the practice of deregistration if on the very thing that I came to you as the registrar and said I was going to do, I then do not do? That would contribute to to any kind of political stability, political practice. I don't do that thing I said I was going to do. Wouldn't you deregister me immediately?
Exactly, my point. It's part of the reason why a party can be registered. If you don't do what you said within law that you are going to do. And it's also good to know that the issue of the demand of ideology started as the amendment 2022. So there's the question of compliance also. But our challenge is the registration. And I've given you just an example of what you try to register and then the process. For example, I'll give you what it means in Kenya to register a political party.
Okay.
The first thing you do, you give them a warning. Which may take at least 90 days. You have wanted them to collect the breach. If you realize they have breached, whether it's ideology, whether there's membership, whether it's party of issues, whether it's inclusivity, because inclusion is also a ground for the registration, whether it's mismanagement of funds, all those are grounds of the registration. So you give them a warning and you tell them, kindly amend the breach. Some of them, 90 days is a very long time for you to have amended the breach.
3 months, yeah?
3 months. If they don't amend the breach within the 90 days, then you give them notice of suspension. Not here, it's notice of suspension. Which take another 90 days. Then within the notice of suspension, there are some that may still amend the breach and then they continue. After 90 days, after notice of suspension, then you suspend the political party. That is how many months? Those are 9 months. You now give them another 3 months for suspension. So when you suspend them from there, after suspension, majority of them now move to court because they see now they are in the process of being registered.
Deregistered,
yes. Because the next step after suspension is now giving a notice of deregistration. And when you give notice of deregistration, you now start the deregistration process. And that is where they now go to court. You get all manner of orders, and then the process told. In 2020, 2021, I think, we succeeded in registering 2 political parties. But one of them, in spite of fully being registered, they went to court and they get orders that they are not registered, and we had to look for a way for them to. So you see, that's why I'm saying we must make the registration very easy in this country. If you have to implement on point, so that it forms as a deterrent of misbehavior or non-compliance.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that is one of the challenge. I can say from a registrar's point of view that is a challenge, because the time you start wanting to grab the wheat, and the registration, of course, is the highest level of discipline.
Okay.
Then you find that you cannot do that. It becomes a problem. And also, and it matches also the registration. So to me, the first review that we probably would want to look at if we want to have spontaneous actions is, first of all, how a party is registered, so that it's made very easy, and then how a party is registered. It is made also very easy. And the sanctions that the court cannot not interfere in terms of the work of the registrar, because we agree that we gave ourselves a constitution where you have a right to go to court, do ABCD until you exhaust the machinery. But then you also have to look at the right of the institutions that is regulating some of these processes.
Are you then saying that the court is somewhat interfering?
No, I'm not saying it's interfering, because it's their right. They are doing their job.
Okay. Though you said after the court,
but you see, because the law gives the court also the mandate to do what they are doing, because they are also protecting rights of people against, so that we check, is the registrar following the right process? It's okay. There's no problem with the court, actually, because courts are just doing what the laws mandate them to do. But we are saying probably we may have limits. And I'll give you an example. Before 2022 amendment, a political party, even a search of a name, and somebody registrar refusing a search of a name, somebody will go all the way to the Supreme Court. In the amendment of 2022, we said, no, we cannot be taking even very simple things up to the Supreme Court. We said, why don't we cap it at Court of Appeal? Others we capped at High Court. So those are the manner in which I'm saying we probably need to look at that. Where do we go? Up to which court can a person go? Because because the judiciary actually are on the right track. They are doing what a credible judiciary should do. Because the first thing you do, you look at the right of a person against the institution, because the right is also very important. But then our question is, to which extent? Because it means that if somebody has to go to all the levels up to the Supreme Court, that is 2 years, 3 years. The reason why you are registering them now becomes another story altogether. So I think the issue is, we look at our system, we see for this one, it goes up to the PPDT, Political Parties Dispute Tribunal. If tribunal rules, then the registrar goes ahead and do what he has to do. And if it's ruled in the paper, in the party, then we implement that. But the problem is the movement from tribunal to High Court, to Court of Appeal, to Supreme Court, and all those are timelines.
I want to ask this question. How exactly do we handle coalitions in this country?
Our coalitions are regulated by law. First of all, the formation. We have the pre-elections coalition and post-election coalition.
Okay. Yeah. So pre-election coalition, what are those?
Pre-election coalitions is political parties that come together before a general election.
And what do they document to show
at least that is at least 120 days before the general election.
120 days before.
Yeah.
So they say, we XYZWF, we are going to form this coalition, and they register with you.
Yes, they actually form a coalition agreement. The coalition agreement is the basis on which they operate, and that is what the coalition agreement is, what they file with the Register of Political Parties.
And it says what they're going to do, and it also talks about dissolution. Should they not agree, what should happen? All that is included.
All that is included. They put every clause of dissolution, exit. If one of the members want to exit, there's a clarity on how that person should exist. Should any other person want to join post-election, how they join, that is all there in that agreement.
So post-election, how does this work?
Yeah.
The post-election, you can either join an existing pre-election coalition. It's allowed you come as a new party because there's a provision in the agreement on how a post-election coalition can be formed. Not really formed, but a party can join an existing pre-election coalition. That is one method. Parties also can come together post-election and decide to form a coalition. So all of them are allowed.
What if you're already in one party and you're in a coalition and then you want to move now to another coalition?
The first thing is you exist. The first
You have
coalition.
to exit.
You have to exit the first coalition.
Okay.
And there's the agreement regulates how you exit from that coalition.
There's a time stamp to this as well.
Yeah, not necessarily. It's bet with people, members.
Okay. So the members.
The agreement. It's the members who set the rules of that agreement.
So essentially, that pre-election agreement now comes into force when you want to leave.
No, it's always in force. As far as you are a member,
Yes.
You are actually implementing the coalition,
Yes.
and you are together.
Yes.
But when you want to exit, then the provisions on how you shall exist, you exit from the coalition.
Is it part of the agreement?
It's part of the agreement.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is what you must follow.
Yeah, that is what you must
So
follow.
if the agreement says if you disagree, you can just walk away and just tell us I'm walking away.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It is fine.
Oh,
It's
okay.
fine. It's
So-
fine.
so
So
that-
there's okay.
Go ahead.
No, because I'm just following what you're interrogating. Because in my head, I was thinking there's some standard,
No, there's no standard.
It's
actually
the agreement
The
that
only
dictates.
thing that is standard is what the Schedule 3 of the Political Parties Act provide. What should go into that agreement? For example, the agreement should of course have how you join and how
you exit.
you exit. Yeah.
Okay.
But the rules of how you exit is formed purely by the coalition members.
Okay. Some points of clarity. So a couple of weeks ago, we did hear from the court because, I don't think that it's possible for this dalliance to happen between the political atmosphere without the Registrar of Political Parties and then without the courts, because everything eventually ends up there by your own admission as well. So the courts came back and told us about the decision that they made following the 2022 election. And then further to that, what happened in the House of Parliament. And that whether there were those that were in the majority or those who were in the minority, and of course the Registrar came into question in terms of who then made the pronouncement to then give the Speaker of the National Assembly the order to essentially name who the majority was. From the Registrar's point of view, what is the true situation?
The first thing you should know, the determination of who is majority or minority is squarely in the doorstep of the Speaker.
With certain information.
As what we do is just provide the state of coalition in just stating the Speaker, these are the people who are in this coalition, this other one are in this coalition, this one are free members, they are not in any coalition. We just provide data to upon request, and which they have requested at periodic stages. So when we provide that, we leave it to the Speaker to interpret the data and make the determination, because that is the work of a Speaker.
Okay, so what did you provide?
We provided as per that particular time how the agreements were, and then we give to the National Assembly.
So by simple mathematics, from what you gave over to the Speaker, was what the court said then in 2020?
I think
what the court said in 2024, did it relate to the information that you handed over to the Speaker in order for him to make the pronouncement that he did in 2022?
If you read the judgment, you are going to see the court relied on our data.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the Speaker
So
also,
I need you to say, Registrar, in this case, the information that you gave to the Speaker, did it then correlate with the announcement that he made about who the majority was in 2022?
That I cannot speak for him, and allow me not to speak for him.
No.
Yeah, let me speak that we provided data, and the data, when we provide data, how we interpret data, we don't. That is a different institution.
But we're also saying that the court relied on your data, the Speaker relied on your data, but the Speaker and the court have said two totally different things.
Both the court and the Speaker have independence of judgment.
Yes.
Both of them, they have independence of judgment.
Who's higher?
I don't think there's any institution that is higher than the other, but it's only that processes are taken from one level, from one institution to another. But you cannot say, really, I don't want you to really pin down on the decision of another institution. The institutions have their independence, and especially decision independence. And that's why even from one court to another, there's an appeal, even to the second court. So let's treat this as different interpretations. And,
all right.
And the institutions had their own decisions to make.
Somebody once said, numbers don't lie, emotions might lie. All right. Now, if someone walks into this room, there is one gentleman and 3 ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah? Anybody who walks in will see 3 ladies, one gentleman.
Yeah.
How would somebody else come and say, oh, you're seeing 3 gentlemen? And one lady. Is this the confusion? They're both using
one lady with a beard.
Right.
They're both using the information you gave them.
Absolutely.
To interpret 2 different things.
Yeah, because they have their own independence of
reading the numbers.
Allow me to push a little bit more.
Yeah.
The data and information that you gave, was it numerical data?
Or
yes, it's numerical.
It's numbers. So if I see a 3, it is a 3. How can I interpret 3?
I think that the best thing is also to read both the ruling of the National Assembly at that particular time, what they relied on. It's very important to actually also underscore that, because maybe they had some other considerations they made, and then look at also the judicial. And I think without looking like I'm defending, is to just allow the different institutions to make a decision. And once they make a decision, it can be challenged in court. And once the court give an interpretation, then another person who is dissatisfied move to
Madam
to the next court.
has decided on this particular matter.
She's holding on to this
she
one.
She is going to hold on to the position that she gave the data
that was to be interpreted by different institutions.
She is not interpreting it beyond she gave the data.
Yes,
the data, and that's where you're going to
because
stay.
I cannot make a decision for another institution. I make only for the institution.
If anything, we must applaud you for your resilience. I then must ask.
And recently, let me another information that is very critical. Recently, we were still in court another time. People took us to court, and the court, the first preliminary order that we have the expert order that was given by court last week was that the registrar should publish information of all political parties. And then also the status of coalition. And we did that. We did in the newspapers.
Oh, yes, you did.
And we also did a gazette notice. And we also did a gazette notice on the status of coalition.
Yes,
and we gave all the information.
So you have given
our
yet
role.
again.
Our role.
All right. So allow me to ask you another
Our
question.
role ends there.
Okay. Allow me to ask you another question. It is 2025. If you looked out the window and read the newspapers and watched the news, you would imagine that the election was taking place next week.
Yeah.
What's the plan? What rollout in terms of, you've already told us there's 30 to 40 applications for new political parties, but people are running up all over the place. The IEBC, we don't know yet. This, that, we're not sure what's going on with that. With the Registrar of Political Parties, how are things looking? Because it seems as though you're already being whipped into action.
As we are in full action, indeed, ours is usually a roller coaster. We don't know whether there's election or no election. It's only that in elections it's a bit heightened activities, but actually political parties in Kenya are very active. They keep the registrar on the toe. Either they are fighting, or they are coming together, or they are rebranding, or they are trying to whip their members, or they are also trying to get grassroots support. There is a lot of activities around our office, and especially because political parties are extremely very active in different areas. So how it's looking like for us is that we must prepare for the next general elections, and the first thing is to prepare political parties in majorly on compliance, because parties that are not compliant are not able to put themselves in the elections. And you remember, in the last general election, we had about 90 registered political parties. About 78 of them are the one who participated in elections. The rest did not participate because of non-compliance, and therefore they could not be allowed to go to field candidate because they were not compliant. So we are very busy trying to make the political parties realize the necessity of compliance and forcing that. That's why you hear us talking about suspension, trying to push them to make sure that they are compliant with the law and so that they are prepared towards the next general election. We are also processing their changes as they bring them and also whipping them also to think about ideology. Right now we are, even this week, we are in trainings. We are training political parties on mainly on internal dispute resolution. That is the current training that we are training them in bunches, training at least 3 officers per every political party on internal dispute resolution committees. Then we train on elections boards. We also train the secretary generals. We speak the ICT officers because right now we are also doing serious major reforms on IPPMS, our integrated political parties management system. So we are really trying to do business reengineering to make sure that the system is responsive to political parties as we look towards the next general election.
Indeed.
We also have materials, training materials. We have a source book we have developed to train political parties. We are training persons with disability to allow them participate in elections. We are training youth. We are training women. So we have all those segregated and critical also is public education using NGOs and others at the grassroots in terms of political education. So we are really busy and engaged in terms of trying to prepare political parties towards that.
Definitely have your work.
Not withstanding the issue of disputes that come here and there and trying to help them, the parties resolve them even before they go to court and use alternative dispute resolution
to sort out issues.
To sort out issues so that they are not caught up in courts when others are actually moving towards the general election.
You have your work cut out for you. It's going to be an interesting next couple of months. And we great to hear from you as things continue to roll out, as you do hold on to your data and information. And Nderitu is the Registrar of Political Parties, has been our guest this hour. Thank you for honoring our invitation in the hot seat of the Situation Room this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.